In almost every modern job interview, when asked to name their greatest weakness, the vast majority of people will confidently claim that they are a perfectionist. They say it with a subtle smile, fully expecting the interviewer to be secretly impressed. We have been completely brainwashed by society to view perfectionism as a badge of honor, a symbol of unparalleled work ethic, and the ultimate driving force behind all great success. We genuinely believe that holding ourselves to impossibly high standards is the only way to achieve greatness. But from a clinical and psychological perspective, perfectionism is not a strength. It is not a superpower. It is, in reality, a deeply destructive psychological trap, an exhausting emotional treadmill, and one of the most efficient killers of true potential and authentic happiness. Today, we are going to strip away the glamorous facade of the flawless achiever. We are going fundamentally into the dark psychology of perfectionism to uncover why your relentless pursuit of the absolute best is actually guaranteeing your failure, why your obsession with flawlessness is a trauma response, and how letting go of the impossible is the only way to ever achieve anything truly meaningful in your life. To dismantle the illusion of perfectionism, we must first understand its true psychological root. Most people falsely assume that perfectionism is simply about having incredibly high standards and a meticulous eye for detail. This is a massive misconception. Perfectionism has absolutely nothing to do with healthy achievement or a genuine desire for excellence. At its absolute core, perfectionism is a cognitive defense mechanism heavily rooted in a profound fear of shame, judgment, and rejection. Renowned psychological researchers define perfectionism as a 20-ton shield that we lug around, falsely believing that if we look perfect, live perfectly, and do everything perfectly, we can completely avoid or minimize the deeply painful feelings of being blamed or judged. If you grew up in an environment where love and validation were strictly conditional, where you were only praised when you brought home a flawless report card, won the gold medal, or behaved with absolute obedience, your developing brain wired itself to believe that your fundamental human worth is inextricably tied to your flawless output. You learned that any mistake, no matter how small, makes you inherently unlovable. Therefore, the perfectionist does not strive for greatness out of a joyous passion for the work itself. They strive for flawlessness out of absolute terror. They are constantly trying to construct an impenetrable armor of perfect achievements to protect their incredibly fragile inner sense of self from the harsh criticism of the outside world. This fear-based psychological framework inevitably leads to the most devastating irony of perfectionism. It destroys your ability to actually take action. This manifests in the very common yet deeply misunderstood phenomenon of perfectionistic procrastination. To the outside observer, a procrastinator simply looks lazy, disorganized, or unmotivated. But the perfectionist procrastinates not out of laziness, but out of absolute paralyzing terror. They operate on a rigid, highly toxic, all-or-nothing cognitive distortion. In their mind, if a project, a diet, or a creative endeavor cannot be executed flawlessly from the very first step, it is a catastrophic failure and completely, utterly worthless to even begin. When faced with a blank page or a new challenge, the crushing weight of their own impossible expectations triggers a severe anxiety response in the nervous system. The brain correctly identifies the project not as an opportunity, but as a massive threat to their ego and self-worth. To escape this agonizing anxiety, the perfectionist completely avoids the task. They will meticulously reorganize their entire workspace, endlessly research tiny details, or fall down a social media rabbit hole, convincing themselves they are simply preparing to do the work perfectly. They will wait for the perfect moment, the perfect mood, or the perfect burst of inspiration, things that fundamentally do not exist. As a result, their greatest ideas never see the light of day. They remain trapped in an endless cycle of overthinking and inaction, ironically ensuring that they achieve absolutely nothing at all while desperately trying to achieve everything perfectly.
Furthermore, this relentless drive for flawlessness does not just poison your relationship with your work, it actively destroys your relationship with yourself and the people around you. Because the perfectionist's self-esteem is entirely conditional upon their flawless performance, they live in a state of constant, exhausting self-surveillance. They become their own most brutal, unforgiving critic. Even when they do achieve a massive victory, they are entirely incapable of celebrating it. Instead of feeling pride, they immediately fixate on the tiny, microscopic errors they made along the way, or they simply move the goalpost further away, convincing themselves that the achievement was not actually that difficult, or that it still was not quite good enough. This creates an emotional baseline of chronic dissatisfaction and profound exhaustion.
And tragically, this brutal internal standard is almost always projected outward onto everyone else. Perfectionists make notoriously difficult partners, friends, and managers. Because they cannot tolerate their own human flaws, they have absolutely zero capacity to tolerate the normal, everyday flaws of the people they love. They constantly nitpick, criticize, and hold others to an invisible, impossible standard that nobody could ever possibly meet. They end up deeply isolating themselves, pushing away the very connection and intimacy they subconsciously crave, all because they are terrified of the messy, unpredictable, fundamentally imperfect nature of genuine human relationships.
The only way to break out of this suffocating psychological prison is to actively rebel against the illusion of the perfect ideal. You have to undergo a radical paradigm shift from perfectionism to optimalism. An optimalist is someone who strives for excellence, but deeply understands and accepts the fundamental reality of human limitation. They accept that failure, mistakes, and awkwardness are not catastrophic indictments of their self-worth, but absolutely necessary data points on the path to growth. Overcoming perfectionism requires the immense courage to embrace the concept of good enough. It requires you to intentionally take messy, incredibly imperfect action. You have to force yourself to hit publish on the article before it feels completely finished. You have to speak up in the meeting even if you have not memorized your entire speech. You must consciously expose yourself to the profound discomfort of being seen as a flawed, stumbling beginner. When you finally stop wasting all of your precious psychological energy trying to maintain an airtight illusion of flawlessness, a massive weight is lifted from your shoulders. You reclaim the freedom to actually enjoy the process of your own life. You will slowly realize that people do not connect with you because of your shiny, perfect achievements. They connect with your vulnerability, your struggles, and your genuine humanity. Perfection is an entirely artificial construct, a ghost that will haunt you forever if you let it. True power, undeniable resilience, and genuine peace are found the moment you finally grant yourself the absolute permission to be magnificently, unapologetically imperfect.